What's up, everybody? If you want to join the greatest online Star Wars community, the Fandom Menace, make sure you hit that subscribe button before today's video starts, so you don't miss out on any updates and you're always the first to know when our newest videos go live.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
Well, I'm back from Star Wars Celebration, and this is World Class Bullshitters, and you know exactly what we're about to do. So get prepared, and boys, hit the music. So here I am at the Hasbro booth at Star Wars Celebration. And as you can see, there's a lot of love for the vintage collection. I wonder why. Well, let's find out together. As you can see, this display case is full of old and new figures, and some vehicles as well. We have the skiff, we have the tank from Rogue One, and we have a whole bunch of figures like Han Solo and Stormtrooper gear, Dr. Aphra, Princess Leia, Han Solo, and more. But what you'll notice is there's only a small minority of Star Wars The Last Jedi action figures. Now up here, we have Luke, we have a Stormtrooper, we have Chewbacca in the vintage aesthetic, so they're on vintage cards, and we didn't get to look too long. Now folks, keep in mind that everything here was filmed at Star Wars Celebration, so we had to keep a brisk pace, aka someone was behind me telling me to move along. Now over here we have the hyper-real detail, and at first I was like a lot of you. I was not sold on this Darth Vader figure. I thought, it's not really worth my time. But then I got to see it in person, I got to touch it, the costume is made of rubber, it's a very nicely made figure, and I got to talk to the man at the top of Hasbro's design team, Mark Bordeaux, and he tried to pitch me on this, and I asked him other Star Wars questions, which I'll talk about later in this video. So here's the wraparound of all the awesome artwork that was at Star Wars Celebration in the Star Wars booth. And let's check out these little displays, these little dioramas for Black Series figures. So we have A New Hope, or as they just call it, Star Wars, which most people do. Down here we have The Empire Strikes Back, filled with amazing figures. And then as we go down slower, we have Star Wars. What's the Return of the Jedi? That's the name of the movie. And I'm reminded of that scene where Jabba the Hutt commanded a whole flank of scout troopers. So there's some more figures, Lando, Leia. Let's take a closer look at the bounty hunters, some of the best parts of the movie. Darth Vader looks awesome. I'm not sold on the Luke figure, so let's go check out Princess Leia and Han. They have the new real scan technology, and they look awesome. There's Grand Moff Tarkin, another figure that I think looks amazing. And no matter what Disney has done with Star Wars, this is a monument to the past. A good monument, a reminder of how great Star Wars once was. And there's Channel Dad Brian Lape. Again, you'll have to excuse me trying to traverse through all these people. I couldn't help it. Now let's take a look at the other side of the vintage collection case, and we'll try to get a little closer, hopefully. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff on display, a lot of goodies. If you're a Star Wars fan, a long-time Star Wars fan, there's some things to excite you. We'll get back to the vintage stuff in a moment, but let's just pan across it right now and see what they got. Again, these are the new 3 3/4 inch super articulated figures. Some are fully new, some are not. But you know what? Hasbro listens. Believe me, I talked to the guy, and again, I'll tell you more towards the end of the video. So we have Jabba's Palace, which is a really cool idea for a playset. You don't see a lot of playsets today. And this is the thing out of the box. You get Han Solo, you get Reese, you get the Carbonite block. You get a lot for the money, which I have no clue what the price is, by the way. They don't advertise prices for most of these things. But let's go back and look at the vintage collection. So here we have Leia, Vader, and Han. And I don't think these look very good. I looked at Han, he looked more like Bruce Lee than Harrison Ford. These are all new figures. They've been re-sculpted digitally. And here's an all-new figure, Grand Moff Tarkin, one of the most requested figures of the vintage line, has now been made into a figure in the vintage aesthetic. Speaking of the vintage aesthetic, there's Joel. He's old. Again, you'll have to excuse me. But he wanted to show off this new Mace Windu lightsaber from the Black Series, which I gotta give him credit. The Black Series lightsabers were a lot of fun to play with. I had so much fun playing with them. I almost wanted to get the Obi-Wan lightsaber on the spot, so maybe when it goes on sale. You know what? Maybe full price. Who knows? I don't really want to penalize Hasbro for some Lucasfilm/Disney decisions that we hate. Speaking of Episode 1 stuff, there's Obi-Wan, there's Darth Maul. I couldn't get those convention exclusives. We have more Black Series figures. Some are available, some are not. That Luke, that Han, those are very old. And as we move down further, we see what? Oh, fucking Holdo. Hasbro, I take back everything nice I said about you people. You know, it's just done. Let's look at the displays for the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and the Revenge of the Sith one. There wasn't much I could do. Now, speaking of trash, let's look at Galaxy of Adventure. So we have Princess Leia. Everybody loves her. Nothing bad to say. But that is a bad Han Solo figure, even though he's my favorite character. And there's a less than inspiring Chewbacca. Now on the next shelf, as we slowly pan down, we have a Stormtrooper and we have Boba Fett. Again, two excellent characters that everyone loves, but not good toys. And down here we have some stuff based on the prequels and the sequels, which we're just going to skip the sequels completely. Now, let's go look. Oh, I guess I was wrong about skipping the sequels, because here we are with the episode 7. And as we pan down again, we have The Last Jedi, which probably, nope, not even worth my damn time. There's Luke Skywalker, folks. Look at Luke Skywalker. Again, the wraparound art was incredibly well done. It just goes to show you how timeless Star Wars is. And as we fly through the canyons that are these display cases, we see a man dressed as Anakin Skywalker in front of a Darth Vader card back, which is kind of funny. Perfect timing, if you ask me. The Force will be with you always. Reveal will be here at 4 p.m. Friday. Well, we came back Friday, and here's what there was. So there's Boba Fett in the 6-inch scale with the Kenner box and the vintage coloring. Now, speaking of coloring, the Darth Vader prototype set. Now, prototypes have weird colors, and this is a cool way to resell you an old Darth Vader figure. I think the old sculpts are coming back in vogue. Now, this is the thing I wanted most from the show, this Luke Skywalker 3-pack. These are only available at the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, which I can't get, but I'm dying to get those because those are awesome, and I still love Luke Skywalker. That's the only positive I can say about Star Wars The Last Jedi. Over here is a vintage booth. See, this entire convention had countless tons of Star Wars merchandise available for sale. But the things that always charged the highest premium were the vintage Star Wars toys, because you can charge what we call the nostalgia tax. People will pay through the nose to relive their childhoods. Dion did. He bought an AT-AT Walker. And not this AT-AT Walker. He bought the 90s equivalent. And I wanted to buy that Death Star. But again, I'm not emotionally attached. I just always wanted one. So I saw this Princess Leia down here, which I had never seen before. Turns out she was a Disney Store exclusive, and that makes sense because I don't shop at the Disney Store. So let's take a look on the inside of this place. We have some master replica helmets, which are very, very well made. We have a whole bunch of vintage cardback style figures, some stuff from the Clone Wars series from 2008, maybe a little later, and this massive thing, Jabba's sail barge, the Katana, which kind of wish I would have backed, but I didn't. So, oh well. And there's Rose Tico, folks. Gotta love, you don't gotta love Rose Tico. She's there at this point. Again, I was kind of cramped trying to walk around, but I did see this old Tauntaun with Han Solo figure. These were in demand back in the day. And I know one of my toy store owner friends likes to take the Tauntaun and repaint it. And those Episode 1 banks were awesome back in the day. I remember they played the Duel of Fates, and you could connect them and they would kind of fight. Give it to George Lucas. The merchandise was inspired. They always tried to do new things. They tried to have new articulation, the Comtech stuff. It was awesome. Well, what's awesome is filing through a peg of Star Wars toys and seeing figures you actually want to buy. All of them. They're all quality figures based on quality characters. So, as we edge closer to the end, we see a character that has no quality, Rose Tico. She's a joke at this. She's always been a joke. Come on. Speaking of jokes, how many of you have seen this figure or this character? Yes, that is the man who plays Jar Jar Binks. Ahmed Best is Ahmed Beck, and he has his own little figure. And we also have a little Padme figure from Attack of the Clones. So remember, they made an action figure of Padme with a flower bouquet. No gun, no blaster, just that. So as we're walking out, we're checking out a couple other things, some multi-packs, and this Millennium Falcon from 2004, which I did not realize was worth $140, but a lot of people were charging a very high premium for that toy. And now, this right here is a monument to classic Star Wars, vintage Star Wars. People love it. So speaking of monuments, we went to a literal one for the history of Star Wars. The Rancho Obi-Wan display. And as you can see here, we have all kinds of neat things, posters. They took the old Star Wars films and they elevated them into a way that has never been topped. I mean, look how epic this Luke Skywalker painting is. That was a novel cover, I believe. And this is okay. This is a Rogue One Celebration print. Now, this is my favorite one, based solely on the rendering on Carrie Fisher's face. Han Solo agrees. And then we have some really cool artsy posters. The 3-color black, white, and red. I also was a big fan of that one as well. Now, here's the one I would love to own. So, folks, if you got one of these, give me a call. I love Luke Skywalker. And here's a Portugal Star Wars Celebration Europe 2007 thing. So one thing people want to give credit to Disney for is expanding the Star Wars brand, which is not fair, because a lot of these things that we're looking at were under Lucas's reign, and Star Wars Celebration had gone to Portugal, had gone to Japan, had gone to England, well before Disney bought Star Wars. So let's just remember that Lucas was able to keep Star Wars alive for many decades in many different ways, and Disney just kind of picked up the reins and tried to, continue it, but didn't do a good job. So now over here is one of the coolest things that I saw the entire show. And let me wait till someone behind me moves, and I will check it out. And it is this Star Wars equivalent of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover. And if you look closely, you can find George Lucas. I see him. Do you? Now, but this is incredible. This is, if I could own one thing from the show, it might be that. These are some little medallion pins. They're cool, from The Empire Strikes Back. Love classic Star Wars, never get tired of it. Now down here, we're about to see one of the rarest Star Wars pieces of merchandise ever, the utility belt. I believe the license was revoked, so they could only sell them in Canada, and then they had to take them back, something like that. Look into it, folks. It's quite interesting. Now, speaking of interesting are all these helmets that we're about to look at. Again, I had to maneuver my way through a lot of people, and it was kind of hard, but it happened. So I have to excuse the head that's about to pop up at any second. There he is. And look at these. These are awesome. These are custom painted, and we had to leave. So before we go, let's look at something embarrassing. This Snoke figure. So as you know, Star Wars Celebration is a place where people can charge a premium for Star Wars merchandise, yet stuff based on The Last Jedi can't sell for $5. There was quite a few of these Snoke figures for $5. So the 3 words The Last Jedi hurt Star Wars. And if you think that's embarrassing, look at this right here. Rose Tico couldn't even sell for $5, so they clearanced her, and it still didn't move the toy. Sorry, Kelly. Sorry. We also have stuff from episode 7 that didn't sell. And look at this. They clearanced this early in the show because people weren't paying $50 for this 6-pack of Star Wars Episode 7 figures. But there is one nice thing that I saw at the show. I finally learned where those land speeders went. Yes, there we go, folks. So those land speeders that were meant for kids have now become a cosplay joke for some dude walking around as Luke Skywalker. But I ain't even mad at him. So that's it for today, folks. I wanted to show you guys the Star Wars Celebration toy floor, but I wanted to talk more about how important the direction of Star Wars is going forward. Star Wars Celebration showed me one thing, and that was the fact that Lucasfilm and Disney are trying to win back the old fans. The exclusives are mostly based on the original trilogy. The things that sell are based on the original trilogy. And the characters of the original trilogy are being focused on in this new trailer. Over the last few years, we've covered the decline of Star Wars retail presence. We've covered the decline of their lack of sales, which I found disturbing. And now that everyone knows about it, and the rose-colored glasses have been removed, and people can't buy into the bullshit anymore of the media, the access media, if you will, and the truth comes out because the numbers have to come directly from Disney, we know just how bad the situation is for Hasbro. And what do? Well, they go back and they try to make stuff based on the original trilogy, and it's working. The Black Series figures look fantastic based on the original trilogy characters. Hell, the figures based on episode 1 looked fantastic. If you saw that Obi-Wan in person, you probably want to buy it even if you dislike that movie. And then we look at the 3 3/4 figures, and those figures are super articulated again, which a lot of collectors demand, but they're also based on the original trilogy, and they're taking characters, they're upgrading them, and they're basically keeping Star Wars alive forever. Because how did Lucas do it? Well, even if you don't like the special edition, he took it, he brought it out in 97, introduced it to a new generation of people, and they became Star Wars fans again. And like I've said on live streams, special edition is different than the original, but it's still the same film. Same thing goes with this merchandise. They take an old figure, they give it a new head, same body, and poof, you're gonna make more money. And I'm okay with that. Hasbro's in the business of making toys, and as a business, you need to make money. And the new stuff doesn't. Kathleen Kennedy's Forced Edicts don't make money. Rose Tico, Rey, Finn, all of them, they don't make money. Captain Phasma, they don't make money. And as I walked the convention floor for 4 of the 5 days, I did not see but 2 Rose Ticos, a handful of Reys, and maybe 1 Captain Phasma that was well done. And I don't count kids' costumes because kids, they do what they want. Let them have their fun. But even then, I didn't see too many sequel-era things. Now, while I was at the Hasbro booth, I did have the pleasure to talk to one of the lead designers at Hasbro on the Star Wars brand, and he was trying to sell me on the new Elite Scale Darth Vader, the 10-inch Darth Vader, but I wasn't interested. I read his name tag, I understood who he was, and he's the guy that designed the Millennium Falcon, the original here in Cincinnati at Kenner, and the remake in 2008. And it was one of the best conversations I ever had. At first, we started talking about the new stuff. Then we started talking about the stuff that was in the case, the vintage figures, and the reason why they chose who they chose. And I found out that Disney and Lucasfilm make those decisions. Again, goes off of what we knew about Kathleen Kennedy. But I also know what permutations they choose for the figures. So for example, let's say there's 12 different Han Solo in blue pants sculpts. Disney will choose which one, and they sometimes get it wrong. So if you're a big collector, you'll know that for a few years they had a Han Solo without the strap on his leg for the gun. Minor complaint, but still, it's wrong. The reason I complain about it? Well, because it was right before. There's no excuse for it to be wrong. So we continued to have a discussion. We talked about the new face printing technology. I asked him directly, was this because you guys felt pressured by Japanese import figures? And he says, like the articulation, we kind of had to learn the process and figure it out. So he gave me an analogy about articulation. But they're always trying to remain relevant and competitive with these other companies, but at the same time, they have to perfect the process. And I'll give Hasbro that one, because their real scan technology on the faces, the real print technology on the faces, looks pretty damn good, and it excites me. It entices me to rebuy toys. It entices me to pick up things that I may not have picked up based on the quality. So, am I changing my tune to Disney Star Wars? Hell no. The trailer didn't do it for me. The shilliness of the guy from IGN, I think his name was Max Scoville, and the bullshit questions, the stuff that Admiral Akbar went through, the voice actor, all of those things, my resolve is just as strong in terms of Star Wars and the fandom menace. But I will give credit where credit is due, talk about the positives, and Hasbro, if you guys can get your distribution down, I think you guys have a really bright future for Star Wars merchandise. Because as a longtime fan, I say about 60% of the stuff in that case was something I would have bought. And for new fans, it's a perfect jumping on point because Disney wants people to buy into Star Wars for the long haul. They try this Galaxy Adventure thing, it works to varying degrees, or it fails to varying degrees. I say it doesn't work. But they try to pump out stuff based on the old characters. They try to give them figures, they try to give them all these pieces of merchandise because they know that's the Star Wars that will last forever. It's a big fairy tale, and fairy tales are still told to this day. And the new stuff from Hasbro is the best plastic interpretation of those fairy tale characters. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share it all over social media. I'm a little tired, but I'm happy to be back from Star Wars Celebration. So thank you to everyone who has made that possible. Thank you to everyone who watched our live streams. And thank you to everyone who has kept backing world-class bullshitters through YouTube and everywhere else we are. If you're a super fan of this channel and you want to get more of us, check out our Patreon page. A buck a month goes a long way, but $5, which is only 17 cents a day, goes even further, and the perks are getting better all the time. We actually have a video of us, Jesse and Anna, playing $1 Million Butt, and it gets kind of crazy. So check that out, but if you can't, get involved with our social media, contact us, let us know if you went to Star Wars Celebration, let us know what kind of things you're looking forward to in the future from the brand that takes place in a galaxy far, far away.